Hey guys, it's Tiqqle, and today we got a PvP hotfix announcement that came out from Blizzard. Unfortunately, it's nerfs to Elemental Shaman. This one kind of hurts more than the last one did, more than the one before that, more than the one before. It sure does feel like ELE has been nerfed pretty non-stop since the 8.1 rework. And as well as at the beginning of BFA, it kind of has seemed like a big change up. And so I kind of went back, and I want to first of all go over the nerfs, and then I want to go over the history of some of the changes that have happened and show you kind of where we are with our abilities now. So with that said, guys, the tuning that has come out today, it's either going to go on the 11th, or it says they're going to pretty much put it in on the 11th. But Elemental Shaman, the focus of this video, is in the middle. Now, it makes me sad, so let's just go over it and I'll tell you what the deal is. So, number one, Earthshock damage has been reduced by 10%. Now, you might say to yourself, but wait, that just happened. Yeah, actually, just a few days ago, Blizzard nerfed Lava Shock, which is an Azurite trait which increases the amount of damage that Earthshock, your first Earthshock does, and they nerfed that by an additional 10%. Okay, now to you that might, you might be thinking, well, okay, well, 10% is 10%. It's actually not. So Lava Shock was adding about like 15, 20k damage to your first Earthshock, potentially. But that's it. Like, it was 10 to 20k, right? Earthshock itself, this is a bigger nerf. This is a lot more damage being taken off. And Lava Shock only affects your, like, lava, when you get 20 stacks, it only affects your first Earthshock. This affects every Earthshock. So if you do 10 Earthshocks in the game, usually maybe you have, if you do 10, maybe 3 of them have the Lava Shock perk, burst going. But now this is overall for all 10 of them, it's going to be nerfed by 10%. This is actually a pretty big deal, and it actually makes me sad because they've been beating on Earthshock for a very, very long time. And ELE has not had the most consistent damage pressure. Our consistent sustained pressure is not that great. And one of the great things is in 8.1 was providing more Maelstrom generation opportunities. Great, now we can do more damage because Earthshock is really still doing the most of our damage. But then they nerfed Earthshock, and I'm not really sure, and I can go into some reasons why maybe they're doing that, but I'll go into that in a few minutes. Next, Stormbringer increases lightning bolt damage. One is by 115. It was 125. Well, let's just take a step back here. This used to be 150, and it got put through from the PTR to live at 150. And sure, that was probably too strong. Maybe. I mean, maybe. There's a bunch of factors there that maybe it wasn't that strong, and you just needed to adjust the mastery, or you need to adjust other things. I don't know, but they've now nerfed this down to 115. Which is plus 50. I mean, it's just, this hurts a little bit because sure, you're increasing the damage by 115%, which is, sure, that's a pretty big number. But in general, Lightning Bolt isn't doing that much damage. Still in general. So increasing it by 150 was great. Now 125 was okay, but you could tell, and now 115. So that actually makes me sad because Stormbringer by itself wasn't actually doing ridiculous amounts of damage. It was using Stormbringer with your Surge of Power procs and getting lucky. That's what was doing huge burst. And I get a little bit of adjustment may have been needed there, but to just do Stormbringer and Surge of Power nerfs, I don't know. I'm really not that happy about this. Stormbringer was nerfed. Okay, so that we actually got a plus 10% damage reduction on our Stormbringer after already getting a plus 15% damage reduction, or 25% damage reduction. So net, this is minus 35 from where it started for 8.1. Next, Surge of Power. Surge of Power can now cause up to an additional 2 lightning bolt overloads against players. It was 3. Now this was RNG, right? You would use Earthshock and then your next ability is empowered, and it was that you could get up to 3 procs, and that was actually pretty crazy. I mean, that did a lot of damage, but it was RNG. Through my testing on the PTR before 8.1, I never had it happen. until 8.1 went live, and I've saw it happen very rarely. So we don't know the probability of you getting 1 extra one or 2 extra ones, like you or 3. We don't know, but that never happened. And if it did, it was like a shooting star. It was great, but that randomness I actually like, because that's like, oh, oh, it happened. Like, it's actually exciting. And that makes the game pretty exciting. And that's what I think about casters in general. Having a little bit of unpredictability or having to line things up makes a class fun to play. Just spamming the same buttons and same rotation is how you PvE, not how you PvP. But a lot of casters across the board are kind of being put in that bucket, minus Destro Warlocks, minus Shadow Priest at this time. So now Ele had this sweet burst window, and it's in my PvP guide. That's probably down in the description. But now with that Stormbringer nerf, I mean, it makes me kind of sad. This one is not that big of a deal, because it's basically saying your RNG range is maybe 1 to 2 instead of 1 to 3. Okay, that's okay, but why do that in conjunction with Stormbringer nerfs? You're nerfing Stormbringer now, 10% reduced damage, and reducing this. In general, they're nerfing our burst. This is what all of this tells me is they're nerfing our burst, and they're actually nerfing our consistent damage, which is mostly from Earthshock. They're nerfing that here. What makes me a little frustrated is that there's no compensating anything, nothing. So, like, it's not like they're nerfing Earthshock damage and moving it around. That's how they kind of sold 8.1 to us from a PvP side. It was like, we're buffing Lightning Bolt, we're buffing Stormkeeper. Earthshock is getting a nerf, but that's okay because we're giving you Lasso. And yes, I have not forgotten about Lasso. Lasso is really strong right now, but it's also consistent pressure, sure, in the stun. But it's not sick burst like we did have, which made the class fun. And that's actually why I liked Elemental Shaman over my Boomkin, because we actually had to set it up, line it up, and it was like a series of globals that you had to weave together to get the optimum burst. Compared to balance, it was like, Star Surge, get my Star Surge power back, Star Surge. You know what I mean? So that's that. So this is the change. It's going into effect. I haven't tried Arena yet, but I'm not happy about the Earthshock nerf in general, because that is basically nerfing our overall damage with no compensation. No, we're not getting, like, if they nerfed Earthshock by 10% and they gave it to Lava Burst, you would hear cheering. Everyone would freak out about the meatball buff. And then Stormbringer is about just a 10% nerf again, and this nerf makes me sad, because lightning bolts aren't doing that much damage. You're nerfing our one area of burst damage after you've already nerfed Lava Shock and Earthshock. Like, the way we're even changing our builds now as Elemental Shaman is we're accepting that we are no longer bursting, we're no longer going for setups, we're going for just consistent pressure, which is not fun if it's not meatballs. Okay, guys, so that's pretty much these changes. I'm not that happy about it, but what I want to show you is I don't think this gives you the full picture about what has happened to Elemental Shaman over the time that Ele has been out for BFA. So let me pull up a little bit of an infographic, which I will share, and I'll put on like Google Docs or whatever for you guys. But I think this is going to show you what I mean, and this is why I'm mad, because I don't think you can look at this at face value. You need to look at what's been happening over the past few weeks and months. All right, guys, here it is. This is what I put together just pretty quickly for you guys. I have links in the bottom of this talking about where I found all the hotfixes, the Tide launch, all the news. But this is the story of Elemental Shaman in BFA. So let's go over like the different abilities and why Elemental Shaman was great at the beginning in terms of burst. Some people did not like it. Some people said it was overpowered, and it kind of was at the beginning, because if we look at the story, and all these should be pretty much right. If you guys have any edits to this, please put it in the comments. I'll pin any comment that captures all that. I'll update the description if I missed one thing here. But anyway, let's just look at, Lava Shock. What does Lava Shock do? Lava Shock, for each Flame Shock tick, it increases the damage of your next Earth Shock. So you would store this up and you would dump all of them, because you would stack 3 to do huge burst damage. Well, when BFA launched, it was doing 100% of its potential damage. And guys, I've broken this down by over time. The columns are the time, and then the different abilities down the rows. And I'm not using numbers, because numbers, we all know how PvP balancing is, so I don't want to do that. I just want to say this is what it was doing, and this is the adjustments that have been made across our abilities, okay? That's how it's going to work. Lava Shock, right? It was doing 100% damage. Very quickly, it was around this time or maybe a little bit earlier, there was a hotfix that nerfed Lava Shock's damage. So instead of doing 100% damage, and I like one-shot someone doing like 80k damage, the ability now is doing minus 35% of what it was, right? So it was like, oh, it was doing much less. And actually, a lot of us were like, I actually get it. Especially because as times goes on, the eye level of everyone is increasing. I do accept that. That means overall damage is scaling up. I get it. But this is the picture of the abilities, right? So it went from 100% damage, and now it was minus 35. And then that went over for some time, and then it went down to minus 50 on December 11th. And then it was like, okay. And the reason for this, I'm pretty sure this is right after Tides came out. This is Tides, right? And Tides came out, and they nerfed some other stuff, and they nerfed this because they still thought it was too powerful. Okay, this was about like when people's eye level like went from like 340 to 380, so maybe that's why. And then again, like a week and a half later, they nerfed it by another 10%. And then that's kind of where we've been sitting at, like negative 60% damage on Earthshock, or and pretty much down here. So from here, from where we started, the on hit like a damage from Lava Shock in PvP is now minus 60% of where it was, which means at the beginning, if it was doing 20k, it's now doing 8. I mean, that's just it's a really, really, really big nerf. And so, okay, a lot of people aren't going Lava Shock. I'm not running Lava Shock actually anymore. I'm running Nature's Harmony. I'm running Igneous Potential because now the burst is just, it's not adding anything. It's not adding enough damage to make it worth it to take up an Azerite trait, at least for now until the next rings come out. So that was a huge nerf. So look at the series of nerfs. Okay, and it's like, okay, maybe that came in somewhere else. Well, Earthshock damage, interesting, 100%, 100%, and then it got the negative 16% nerf in when Tides came out. And then just more recently, another 10% nerf here. So now we're down at about minus 30% damage of where it was. And this is, you know, I don't know, it just makes me sad. I mean, this is another consistent kind of like decline of Earthshock. Now, Earthshock consumes our Maelstrom. It's our spender, right? And it's just kind of consistently been going down. Not all of our damage. I mean, just this one ability, which makes me a little sad because it makes it seem like, okay, maybe our other abilities are going to compensate. But they don't. Like, if we go from there, Stormkeeper actually did plus 0% damage to your lightning bolts. And then quickly it went to 150. And then it went down to 120, and then it went to 115, and then, you know, la-di-da, here we are. So, like, it's still more than we had at the beginning, but this is still not a whole lot, because if you think about it, 115% of a small number is still double, but still a smallish number. So that's the trend of this since Tides. And then we look at Lightning Bolt. And I won't get to the best part last. Lightning Bolt was at 100%, and they over time actually increased it. It might be a little bit more than 40%, because I think there might have been some other change between these times. But basically, was 100% damage, and they increased it by 40%. I think there might have been another 15. But anyway, so Lightning Bolt has gone up way in damage. Yeah, but Lightning Bolt also started at doing nothing. This did like 2k. You like 40% of 2k is like 500 damage, which is not a lot, and we don't even use the ability very often in PvP, so it's not that good. And the weirdest thing, actually, the best and weirdest thing is that Lava Burst has not been touched this entire X-Pack. I don't know if it's even been in the patch notes, to be honest with you. Maybe it was affected by it, and I think at some point there was plus 4% overall damage. I think around this time it was like plus, I think it was like plus 4 or 5% here overall damage, but whatever, right? But overall, the message is like Earthshock damage goes down, or Lava Shock goes down. Earthshock goes down by 30%. A Stormkeeper goes up, but Lightning Bolt still isn't doing that much damage, and that's okay. Not like, I'd rather have you give me an adjustment on Lava Burst. So like, it's just kind of a sad picture, because if you think about it, if your builders are the ones that are getting buffed, that's a pretty boring playstyle, because that's what you're going to be spamming, right? You don't want to be spamming abilities as a caster. It makes me feel like this, I'm a dot class all of a sudden, like I'm an Affliction Warlock, or I'm spamming globals for that, but it's just not satisfying. And it's just kind of crazy to me. So I am a little, this is probably the saltiest video you've seen from me, but I am disappointed. I am actually a little sad, and there was posts on Twitter from even Sea-Doo saying Ele Shamans are probably bad now. And I'm not saying that they're bad now, because I do think Lasso is making us is like our one saving grace right now. But we're going back to where we were pre 8.1. Padding, consistent, casty damage. And it's just not a fun playstyle. It's not a fun playstyle because they're not instant. Like a Boomkin can spam their dots. Affliction Warlock can spam their dots. We have to cast, all right? Like all of our things, unless you get a proc. So this story it's just sad, man. So to be honest, everybody, I'm a little disappointed with this changes. I do think the Mistweaver one and balance, like I kind of get those. But Shaman was, okay, it was strong, but you don't always need to knock those down. It just is a little much for me. So guys, that's kind of a review. What do I think? I think I have to update my PvP guide, because now this is changing Earth Shock so that Lava Shock is not a trait that we go anymore. There's no point. Earth Shock isn't even going to be one of our main focuses. What we're going to be doing is probably all about secondary stats and getting now haste and getting more casts off. Obviously that's going to get more generation, maelstrom generation, etc., but it's going to be about generating that maelstrom and potentially mastery. I'm not really sure yet. It's just a little too soon before testing can happen, but I'm mostly going igneous potential and nature's harmony to get those secondary stats, increase procs, makes me more mobile, makes me more casty, actually gives me a lot more crit too. Enchant of Torrents of the Elements, and that's what I'm going to probably be running at this point. But I got to do some testing, guys. You know, the LA Dream is still on. I'm going to be playing a little bit more enhanced in the, you know, in the near future as well. And that's kind of where it is. Guys, let me know in the comments what you think, because I do know, guys, this isn't the full thing. I know LAs were very strong, but you know, with the item level going up at when the new patch comes out, 8.15, in, you know, 2-3 weeks, there is a chance, no, 2 weeks, there is a chance that because of the higher item level, these type of 10% changes are not a big deal. But I'm just not sold yet. I'm not sold on it. I'm pretty worried at this point, especially because of Ellie's was back in the bursting section of casters, and now we're going back to padding. So I'm a little bit worried. But guys, let me know in the comments what you think. Make sure to like this video if you dislike these changes, or like this video if you like my face. And guys, we will see you on stream 9 p.m. EST. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday. And otherwise, let me know in the comments what you guys are going to be doing, you know, with these updates. If you're going to be stick with Shaman, change class, change spec. I know we got some LA boys down there, so I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm sorry about the nerfs.